The Honourable Ben Dawkins.
The Labor Party has an activism problem, President, and by that I mean, and I'd like the Honourable Ewan Sidmer, I'm channeling back to UWA. I think I was there a few years before the Honourable Ewan Sidmer, but in Politics 100 I did learn something about pluralist democracy. So that's where each group, you would know, Madam President, exists within their own group and fight for their rights. But you allow the other groups in society, in the democracy, to also coexist and have their rights. What we saw on the 22nd of August in this House from the Honourable Peter Foster was a massive overreach. So this is in regard to what's happening in Albany with the very, very explicit book called Welcome to Sex being in the under 12, well, it was in the under 12 section, even of the Albany Library. Now this book is not, let's draw a distinction here, President, between, yes, Honourable Sally Talbot, thank you. I've got it on my phone, downloaded. I actually joined the Bunbury Library. So we would all remember that when you were under 12, the most you ever got to look at was the classic book, Where Do I Come From?, which is about biology. It's not about every kind of possible alternative it's not about every possible kind of very, let's say, alternative, non-standard sexual practice. It's very obvious that under 12s don't need that. And the Honourable Peter Foster, by getting up there and denigrating on the 22nd of August, attempted to denigrate and vilify Thomas Bruff, a very credible man, we've already heard about his resume today, who spoke out against this in Albany, Michelle Kinsella. You could say Liberal and One Nation respectively, but for the Honourable Peter Foster to make this also about party politics was so far off the mark it's not funny. He actually was saying on that day, on the 22nd of August, he was effectively arguing for this very explicit book about all kinds of non-standard sexual practice, shall we say. You can imagine everything from inserting objects into orifices and the like. So I don't need to go into detail, read the book. But the Honourable Peter Foster stood there, over there, saying that this should be in the 12-year-old, under 12-year-old section. That's effectively what the Honourable Peter Foster was arguing. Oh my God. Even as Mr. Honourable Peter Foster was standing there, it had already been removed from the under 12 section because it was clearly so inappropriate.
Paul,
this was not about biology. Where do I come from?
The member is going to
this was about sexual practice.
5 minutes.
So I can only theorise as to how the Honourable Peter Foster got there. Under 12s do not need to know about sexual practice. They may need to know about where they come from biology, reproductive sex, but they don't need to know about inserting objects into orifices. So what happened on that day was that Peter Foster has forgotten about the pluralist model of democracy and has gone into actually impinging or attempting to impinge on the rights of concerned parents in Albany. I've spoken about Michelle, I've spoken about Dr. Thomas Bruff, and what he was doing was trying to vilify those people for simply protecting their right to speak out as concerned parents. So the Honourable Peter Foster has overreached from ostensibly or potentially advancing the rights of his group into now impacting and attacking the rights of parents to defend their children and protect their children. And what the Honourable Peter Foster used to do this was he's using his LGBTQI. He said many times that he's a member of the gay community. So what the Honourable Peter Foster is doing here is he's using his LGBTQI soapbox as a battering ram to try to attack the rights of parents in Albany. So what I would suggest to the Honourable Peter Foster is he maybe reviews his approach It was very clumsy. It didn't advance his group, his gay rights group at all, because he's come across very clumsily as making this something to do with LGBTQI. It wasn't. Those people, very good concerned parents, were not attacking the Honourable Peter Foster. The Honourable Peter Foster needs to realise that the war is over. His people in his gay community have achieved equality. The war is over. He does not need to use his LGBTQI wheelbarrow to try and attack other people's rights. Leave those parents alone. They were doing it with the best of intentions to protect those children, and the Honourable Peter Foster has turned it into something about his group being attacked, and it wasn't. What he's doing is he's actually impinging on other people's rights by vilifying and trying to intimidate and shut down concerned parents who had legitimate concerns. Do you know why they were legitimate concerns? Because even as the Honourable Peter Foster stood there, the Albany Library had already removed it out of the under 12 section. So the Honourable Peter Foster standing there arguing for inserting objects into orifices to be in the under 12 section. I mean, that is disgraceful. That is disgraceful, and the Honourable Peter Foster needs to have a good look at himself about how he uses Parliament to advance his own personal items and go on a rant in this place about LGBTQI rights, which it never was. It never was. It was about protecting parents. It was never about LGBTQI, but he's using that as a battering ram to try to attack other people's rights to defend and protect their children. So don't do that, the Honourable Peter Foster, please. Leave those people to talk about how they want to educate their children. It's not for you. It's not for you to reach into that. Those parents have their own concerns, and please leave them alone. Don't use this place to try and intimidate them just because you say that you're under attack in some way. You're not. And we've actually had enough of the grandstanding about LGBTQI.
Order.